In this week's drive, we chart the changes at the pointy end of Formula One. Take a slide on the wild side in Miami. See history made in the Middle East. And marvel as the wizards on two wheels perform in Portugal. All this and more in this week's Drive. We start this week with the final sprint into the new Formula One season. McLaren, who finished third in last year's Constructors' Championship, seemed to have got an early advantage in testing. Kimi Raikkonen clocked the fastest lap yet at Valencia, taking a tenth of a second off the record set by Williams driver Juan Pablo Montoya.
The 2004 season is shaping up quite well. I think we've done quite a bit of testing, not without problems, but that's what testing's for. Most of the time we've been pretty competitive, but of course you just don't know how strong your opposition is at this stage. But let's say it's just going in the right direction, and we are quietly comfortable with our progress. And I quite deliberately don't use confident or optimistic, because this is Formula One and all you can do is your best, and I think it's going well.
David Coulthard starts his 9th and last season with a Mercedes-powered team after they signed Montoya from Williams for 2005. Coulthard is Britain's top driver with 13 race wins, and he's reasonably comfortable with the pace the team has achieved in testing.
Well, we've done a number of different tests through January and February, mainly in Spain because of weather and availability of the circuits. We've inevitably experienced a few technical problems, which is part of the development of a new car. I think we would be just as worried if we didn't have problems, because that would be, of course, unusual for a development of a new car. Pace-wise, very difficult to judge. We're certainly not blowing the doors off everyone at all of the tests, so it's, I think, safe to say that it's going to be extremely competitive when we get to Melbourne.
This year sees several rule changes which will put more emphasis on driver skills and make the races less predictable.
One of the rule changes for this year is an electronic change, which means the drivers have to make the gear shift themselves. That would seem like an obvious thing for the public, for drivers to have to change gear, but in the past year it's all been fully automatic. Now we'll make that shift, and that should, if a driver makes a small mistake and changes too early or too late, you'll lose some speed, and it should create an overtaking opportunity for the car behind.
Another significant change to put the cars back into the hands of their drivers is the ban on launch control systems used to ensure a quick and clean blast-off at the start.
Basically, we need to make the start ourselves now, and you can gain or you can lose much more this year, and it's going to be much more difficult to get a good start as we did last year. But I think it's a much bigger challenge for drivers and for the team to really make good starts now.
The opening race at the Albert Park track, within a couple of miles of the beach in Melbourne, starts the longest ever Formula One season with 18 rounds across 6 continents.
Well, Albert Park is quite challenging because it's a combination of a temporary circuit. So with any temporary circuit, you have that sort of Monte Carlo feel, you know, where Armco barriers are put in the middle of nowhere just to create the layout of the circuit. But they have, because of the flow of it following the lake, created quite a long circuit and quite open. So it does require good aerodynamics. It's very hard on brakes, normally because the temperature being high as well. Difficult to overtake, and usually a reasonable indication as to performance for cars through the course of the season.
The Melbourne circuit is not maybe most difficult to try, but of course every circuit has some difficult corners, and your setup needs to be right to be able to go fast around the circuit. But it's quite twisty, and the walls are quite close in there. You don't have much space to go off circuit, and otherwise you damage your car, and that's all really.
In Formula One, too much confidence can result in tears, so Ron's being cautious.
Well, our competitors are not only Ferrari but also Williams, and Renault's got very strong recently, so we're under no illusions. We've got quite a lot of work to do, and how competitive we are against them remains to be seen. But so far so good. Our testing's been quite good as regards pace. We've got, as always, with the new car, a degree of vulnerability on reliability, but I don't think much more than anybody else. Only time will tell, of course.
McLaren won their 8th and last world title in 1998, pipped into second place by Williams last year. Coulthard, Raikkonen and Ron Dennis hope the new car will bring back the glory days. Similarly, the Williams team have been racking up big miles in testing ahead of the new season. Juan Pablo estimated that he covered about 7,000 kilometres since January, trying out his new car and testing different parts, tyres and adjustments to wring that last fraction of a second out of the car. Along with teammate Ralf Schumacher and team test drivers Marc Genet and Antonio Pizzonia, the Colombian has been gathering vital data for the team's engineers and technicians to analyse. In particular, they've been making sure that the most powerful engine in Formula One, the BMW V10, has the reliability to last right through a race weekend. But it's the car's radical new nose which is causing a stir. As well as the new front configuration, the new FW26 complies with changes to the F1 technical regulations, which demand a bigger rear wing with only 2 planes and a larger engine cover. Montoya's teammate Ralf Schumacher says getting used to driving the new car has been relatively straightforward.
It's very similar in the way of drivability. If anything, it's slightly easier to drive, so it is a better car. It certainly will take a bit of work, but that's why we launched it early.
Montoya agrees that despite the radically different external look of the new FW26, driving it is similar to the FW25.
Sitting in the car is not much different. You feel a bit higher and that's it, you know, it's nothing major changed in the car. From, you know, inside the cockpit, outside is completely different, but inside not.
You can see how the new car differs from the old, all aiming to improve aerodynamic grip.
I don't think that the front of the car is particularly pretty, but I'm certain everyone here will become very, very fond of it if it becomes a winner.
The shorter, wider and higher nose cone and the bigger aperture beneath it allows more air to pass under the car, reducing interference to the airflow and increasing downforce. What about main rivals Ferrari?
From what we gather from the testing so far, Ferrari are happy that they've made progress on their 2003 car, but equally we have considerably on our 2003 car, and only the season ahead will show which of us have gone the best route.
Last year, a lack of testing resulted in poor results in the first 3 races. Hopefully, they have a sorted and reliable car this year. Over 50,000 fans went to Rockingham, but it might not be enough to save the track from being axed from the calendar for poor crowds. Drivers got the second of 36 races in the championship off to a clean start as they roared round the first turn. Early on, a tyre staged a getaway bid during a pit stop. Jamie McMurray hit it and bounced it over the pit wall.
Boing, boing.
That was minor compared to what happened out on the track. On lap 131, Jimmy Johnson clipped the back of Ken Schrader, who slid down the track as he headed for the pits, but was tagged by Johnson. The replay showed that Schrader should have been lowered down as he slowed before heading into the pits.
And that's a hard lick for Jimmy Johnson.
A far more serious crash occurred on lap 263. Joe Nemechek in the 01 Chevy nudged the number 146 car driven by Carl Long. That caused Long's Dodge to hit the wall and then flip several times. Brendan Gogan, Joe Nemechek and Mark Martin were also caught up in the chaos. In fact, Long emerged from the car without serious injury and was able to walk from the wreck to the infield ambulance. Another accident occurred on lap 352 as Robbie Gordon's number 31 got loose and banged into another and then the wall. His car was also briefly on its side before it smacked into the inside wall. Gordon had started 34th and was credited with 36th place. After that, the race boiled down to a 3-way battle between the Ford of Matt Kenseth, last year's NASCAR champion, rookie driver Casey Kahn and Jamie McMurray, both driving Dodge manufactured races. McMurray dropped off the pace, leaving the last lap of a head-to-head dash to the line for Kahn and Kenseth. Kenseth was on the outside in the black and yellow car, Kahn on the inside in the red car. Kenseth took the photo finish decision by 1/100th of a second, the fourth closest finish since electronic scoring was introduced 11 years ago. It was Kenseth's 8th career win and his second at Rockingham. He led a race-high 259 laps to win. It was also the 31-year-old's first win for almost a year and might go some way to change Kenseth's boring image.
The rookie, Casey at the Rock, who put on quite...
The first Indy Racing League event of the season will be on a modified Homestead Miami Speedway, and teams have been testing ahead of the new championship. IRL has become the premier open-wheel series in North America as teams have jumped from the struggling kart series. Roger Penske, whose teams have won 11 national championships over the last 3 decades, is just such an owner, but Penske won't be satisfied until he's won an IndyCar championship. The addition of Sam Hornish, IRL champion in 2001 and 2, to the Penske team should help. Hornish is a pre-season favourite and is expected to motivate new teammate Helio Castroneves. Hornish is the only driver to do what Scott Dixon is attempting to do this season, defend an IRL season title. Dixon won here last year and went on to win the season, giving Chip Ganassi his first IRL title after 4 championships in kart in the late 1990s.
I think for the team and myself, we expect a lot better finish at the 500. You know, last year was actually kind of strange just with how things played out with the fuel problems and things like that. But I don't know, we'll set the same goals this year. And that's to win the championship and win the Indianapolis 500. I think short term we're going to put a lot more emphasis on the 500. I think the team, you know, is very strong. I think we can do a lot better there, and someone needs to stop the Penske guys winning there. So I think it should be us.
Castroneves, the 2001 and 2002 Indianapolis 500 winner, finished second to teammate Gilles de Ferran in the 2003 race. De Ferran retired last season and Hornish was hired from Panther Racing to take his place. The double champion should be a great addition to the Penske team.
I don't think there's any more pressure on me today than there was last year at this time. It's go out there and do your job to the best of your ability. If you do everything right, you should win the race. If you don't, how do you make yourself better the next time?
The track had a major rebuild last year, increasing the banking from 6 degrees to 18 degrees banking at the bottom, 19 degrees in the middle and 20 at the top, giving 3 possible racing lines.
Banking is always fun, you know, you always can go fast in the corner, flat out. And I guess not only that, it's going to give you not only 1 groove, but 2 grooves, or even more if you're brave. So I'm really looking forward for the race.
Definitely a very, very close race, a lot of passing, and it's going to be decided at the last lap between 3, 4, 5 guys. I think they changed the layout and the track is much faster for us now, so it's going to be very, very exciting.
New Zealander Dixon, who won in his series debut at Homestead en route to his title last season, is hoping to become just the 2nd driver to defend his championship since the series began in 1996. Dixon claimed 5 pole positions and tied Gilles de Ferran and Sam Hornish Jr. with 3 victories last year. He led for a total of 748 laps in 14 of the races. It seems American vehicle makers are getting a conscience about their heavy on-fuel products. GM are about to offer hybrid engine systems in many of their most popular sport utility vehicle models.
Well, our SUV drivers love their vehicles. They sit real nice, they drive smooth, they're fantastic vehicles, and they have full utility. That's what our customers like about them. What we hear also is they like more fuel efficiency. And the Advanced Hybrid System 2 gives us the opportunity to provide all the utility that they know and love in our full-size sport utility vehicles, along with fuel efficiency that's 25 to 35% better than what they have today.
The hybrid pickup truck can also power tools or run appliances at a campground with a pair of 120-volt electrical outlets.
It's good for the customers, it's good for the environment, it's good for General Motors. It's one of our highest fuel-consuming vehicles as well as our highest volume. So offering hybrids on this platform is very important for everybody.
Instead of a conventional starter motor and alternator, the hybrid truck has a compact electric motor between the engine and transmission. It gives fast, quiet starting power and the ability to generate up to 14,000 watts of electrical power. When the vehicle is stopped, the V8 engine stops running, but accessories continue working on stored electrical power. When the driver presses the accelerator, the V8 starts up with little or no delay.
Most importantly, this is not a trade-off for our customer. Our customers really want improved fuel economy, they want reduced emissions, and at the same time, they want performance, they want to have the size of the vehicle, and they want to have the choice of the type of vehicle that they want to buy. So the real key with the hybrid system is to find a way to introduce it into the market so the customer doesn't need to make a trade-off.
Fuel savings come from stopping the engine instead of idling and from regenerative braking. The motor turns into a generator as the truck slows down. Extra savings come from lean burn, shutting off the fuel supply when the truck is coasting or braking. A slightly different system has been developed for diesel-powered heavy vehicles by Allison, a GM subsidiary. Allison hybrid systems now power buses in Seattle, Philadelphia, Minneapolis, Portland, Oregon, and Orange County, California. Putting the technology into practice, 235 new hybrid buses are being put into the streets of the American cities. The hybrid technology will increase the fuel economy of the buses by up to 60%. The yearly fuel savings from the new fleet of buses will be equal to replacing more than 8,000 internal combustion engines with hybrid electric vehicles. These buses will also improve the air with fewer emissions. They'll produce 90% fewer particulates, hydrocarbon and carbon monoxide emissions, and 60% fewer oxides of nitrogen than the buses they replace.
This is the 21st century. This is the great step that we needed to take in terms of how our buses would operate in urban environments. It accelerates very quickly. It burns 37% less fuel. And like I said, the air is cleaner coming out the exhaust than it is coming in the intake. Remarkable.
The system can be used in standard and articulated buses, suburban coaches, military vehicles, and medium and heavy-duty trucks.
General Motors is applying hybrid technology to our highest fuel-consuming vehicles first. Replacing the 13,000 transit buses in the 9 largest U.S. cities with General Motors hybrid-equipped buses would account for an annual fuel savings of over 40 million gallons of diesel fuel. More fuel savings than over 500,000. That's 500,000 small hybrid passenger cars.
Here's how hybrid technology works. Hybrid systems use 2 sources of power to move a vehicle, the engine and the battery. The diesel engine acts as a generator, producing electrical power to keep the battery charged. When the bus accelerates from a stop, batteries supply the power which gives the bus its powerful acceleration, eliminating the large exhaust cloud that an accelerating bus typically creates. The diesel engine maintains speed after the vehicle is moving, and at the same time the engine generates electricity to charge the batteries, giving the vehicle self-sustaining mobility. Regenerative braking captures energy normally expelled as brake heat and returns it to the vehicle's battery. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic in London, an even cleaner bus is being examined. 3 fuel cell buses are being trialled in the UK for 2 years as part of an initiative to move public transport away from normal engines. Those behind the scheme say it's an important move for London.
We think this is a really significant technical development. A vehicle that produces as its emissions only water or water vapour in crowded city streets is a significant technical breakthrough.
The new fuel cell bus is run from 2 boxes on the roof. This is the engine of the vehicle, powered by a new hydrogen-based fuel, which only emits water vapour. The bus was designed by Mercedes-Benz and has taken 2.5 years to develop. Engineers convert the buses by taking out the traditional engine and putting in the electronics and an electric motor. The motor is supplied with energy generated by a fuel cell. At present, each bus costs around £1 million to make, but with major orders from countries around the world, the fuel cell bus would be much cheaper and a more environmentally friendly option for public transport. If this test proves successful, they could become the backbone of London's road transport system within 15 years. The Qatar International Rally was run over 600 kilometres with 22 starters contesting 14 special stages. The organisers are hoping to see the rally become a stage in the 2005 Middle East Rally Championship. Local driver Nasser Salih Al-Attiyah and his new Ulsterman co-driver Chris Patterson led off the starting ramp. Al-Attiyah lost the lead briefly in the fourth stage to Abdulaziz Al-Kuwari when he was forced to drive the section with broken rear suspension. But his Autotech mechanics changed the crossmember and suspension arms at the major service point at the end of the first leg and gave the Subaru a full overhaul before the final 6 stages. Hamid Al-Sawaidi finished in second place. His chances of catching his teammate were shattered at a stewards' meeting late on Friday evening. The Qatari was penalised 8 minutes for GPS route infringements and began the second leg 6 minutes and 49 seconds behind the defending regional champion, despite the fact that Al-Attiyah was also awarded 6 minutes of penalties. Ultimately, Al-Sawaidi finished over 10 minutes behind Al-Attiyah. Abdullah Al-Kuwari was third. It's a great result given that the Qatari driver had not been seen on the international circuit since being hospitalised after an accident in the 2003 Dubai International event. Three women took part, and Nada Zaidan became the first Qatari female to drive in an international rally. She finished 9th overall. Germany's Heide Rosa Mosen led the way in 8th, despite a minor collision with Syrian rival Abia Fudal at the end of the opening leg. Al-Attiyah's winning time of 2 hours, 30 minutes and 10 seconds was 10 minutes and 2 seconds quicker than Al-Sawaidi. The 2004 FIA Middle East Rally Championship resumes in Manama with the Bahrain International Rally, round 2 of the 8-event regional series. After being off the calendar in 2003, the World Indoor Trials Series returned to Lisbon for round 8 of the championship. The trial consisted of 13 sections, a high jump and a double-lane race. Spaniard Albert Cabastany took the final place on the podium. This was his 4th third-place finish this season, having qualified for the final lap with 17 penalties and scoring 12 more in the final.
Nesse caso serão 5 pontos de penalização. Neste caso, 0 pontos.
Takahisa Fujinami came in second in qualifying, 2 points to the better of Cabastany. He pulled away in the final, ending with 24 penalties. With the Russian round in St. Petersburg cancelled, only 3 rounds remain in the championship, the next being in Granada in Spain. Adam Raga was the man in form coming into the event after winning the last 3 indoor events in Marseille, Barcelona and Pesaro, and also winning the first round of the Spanish Outdoor Championships. Although Fujinami scored only 4 marks more than Raga, the young Spaniard held the gap in the final, and his eventual victory was never really under threat.
Como será que vai tentar subir?
With a 20-point lead in the overall standings, Raga is expected to claim her title in Spain, as winning the trial or beating Fujinami and Lamkin will be enough. Raga is now a solid 20 points clear of Fujinami and multiple former world champion Dougie Lamkin, tied on 54 points. Briton Lamkin finished 5th in qualifying, earning himself an early flight home. It's not looking good for another title for him. So, whether you're shifting gears yourself, kicking up some desert dust, or just floating around an oval so you stay on track and up to speed, make sure you catch next week's Drive.